Welcome to InnerTV. I'm your host, Althea Provost, and my guest today is Mary Rodwell, who is one of Australia's leading researchers and writers in the UFO and contact field. Mary is the author of Awakening How the Extraterrestrial Contact Can Transform Your Life, and her latest book, The New Human, which describes and documents star children. Mary is the founder and principal of ACERN, which provides professional support to individuals and their families with contact experiences. Mary also holds professional affiliations with Dr. Edgar Mitchell's Free Foundation and Exopolitics. Welcome, Mary, to InnerTV.
Arthur, it's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you're so welcome. Let's talk about whether or not non-human intelligences are actually shifting or shaping humanity at this time.
Well, it is from my research alone, and that is where I gain my information primarily, that working with over 3,500 individuals, families and children, what they're telling me about their experiences with these intelligences, that ultimately one of the major plans for this planet is to help humanity evolve to a new level of consciousness. And that is, for many, seems to be one of the main agendas given our research with the Free Foundation.
So as the Free Foundation is exploring whether or not ET phenomena or alien species or some type of higher form is affecting this world, what type of people are coming forward and stating that this is the truth, that this is, I'm familiar with Dr. Edgar Mitchell's work. What's evolving now today? What's coming forward?
We'll understand from the Free Foundation alone, because it was done with all the academic protocols, it's going to be something mainstream has to take notice of.
That's right.
Because of the way that it was orchestrated. And what is, for me, it's validated very much of what I had sensed early on when I wrote Awakening, that it is a transformative process. Absolutely. Despite that many will struggle primarily through the initial stages. I call it a modern day shamanic wake-up call, really.
Absolutely.
Because they have to transcend their human fears in the same way that a shaman has to operate in a multidimensional reality in the same way. So for me, it's one of the many ways, either having experiences with them, going on board craft, but there's also many other ways this is occurring, as you well know. For some people, that will happen through a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience, or by learning a healing modality, for example. Even martial arts, working with energy, for example, will frequency. A profound grief experience or human experience where they're shifted in terms of the way they interpret their perspective of reality, for example. All of these are in the same, will create the same experience ultimately of communicating with non-human intelligences, and not just the physical, biological ones, but interdimensionally, extradimensionally, transdimensionally, or those from our future, and perhaps others I haven't even mentioned. So we're talking about it all in the same matrix. It is not separate. Angels and light beings, fairies, elementals, all the different ways we are interacting with consciousness.
That's right.
Is what we're talking about.
So thank you for that. So we're looking at what Mary's condensing is that there's spokes on the wheel, and all those apertures in which the spokes are leading to is central consciousness, where we're starting to awaken to consciousness. Now, I work with people who are already awake, elevated. They're out there, they're teaching, they're doing their things. So where do you think our multidimensional reality, how is it shaping? What are these new children like? What are they bringing to this planet, and how are they interacting with the planet at this time?
Well, that's a good question. And for me, it's been a process of realizing that each generation appears to be an upgrade, a more evolved human. And it goes down the family lines, either through the mother or the father, or in fact, both. And when I talk to them, I often say, what about your mother? What about your grandma? And they will often say, oh, Granddad was always interested in UFOs, or grandma was a bit fey, a bit, she was always into this, that, and the other. And there is your indicator. Even though those older generations may not have understood what exactly was going on, the newer generations certainly. And what I discovered was that when we got to these new generations that metaphysicians are calling indigos, crystals, children of light, golden children, what have you, they're also being labeled ADHD, dyslexic, Asperger's, some forms of autism. And I remember when I came to the conclusion there was something going on that was more than we realized, was when I was talking to parents and they were saying, they've had these experiences. It's changed their reality. They've become a lot more multidimensionally operating, clairvoyance, clairaudience, their precognition, all these things that they were experiencing. And they would have a child that they'd said, but my child's got ADHD, or my child is got a form of autism. And I remember thinking, well, what does that actually mean? Are these children actually dysfunctional? And what we discovered was that the difference is a different wiring. And the wiring means that they are not so easily programmed back into the limited 3D that many of us are programmed into. That in fact, it precludes that kind of programming for a very good reason, because it's inaccurate.
It is inaccurate. I also feel like they have a hyperdimensional mind, because I came in that way. I also came in knowing that it was my job to clear 7 generations back within my genetic line. And that was to take the miasms out of the genetic line, to elevate so that the future generations coming forward weren't really working out the things that my family line could not. And so I see that the children, even ones that have, let's say, ADHD, again, they are hardwired differently. They're able to connect on these levels that is where we're going, which is that interconnected web of interconnectivity of all levels, not just this life, but all conscious life.
Well, that was what the clues were showing me. I remember talking to a lovely gentleman in Hong Kong, Neil Gold, who has written a book called Close Encounters of the ADHD Kind. And he said he always saw reality in an expanded way. And the clue, and what he's reinterpreted ADHD as always dialed into higher dimensions.
Absolutely.
Because they are. And this is the bottom line. The children coming in, I'm talking to, they may be 6, 7, or 8, 9, 10. They'll tell me what planet they've come from. One of them recently was telling me that it's his first incarnation. He's all of 10. And he said, this is his first incarnation here. He's picked a mother that's had a number of incarnations to help him deal with that. Call himself a center seed. He's connecting to the center of the planet, and he's here to deal with the pollution on this planet as part of his mission. He sees interdimensionally. He operates and works with crystals. He's all of 10 years old, and his awareness is absolutely clear about what his mandate is on this planet now. And he is one of, I suspect, not just thousands, but millions of children around the globe that are being born now with this access, awake to who they are and awake to why they're here.
Are you also seeing children who are working with the elements like wind and able to move the elements? Yeah, okay.
Absolutely, a number of the children. And one was a lovely story from a lady in England who talked about her son. They went on to Glastonbury tour, which is a big tour. Lots will know about it. And apparently it was very windy that time. And the son says to his mother, I've talked to the wind and I've asked it to be a bit more gentle. And he said, the wind originates, it tells me, from Italy.
Oh.
So he knew where the source of this particular wind came from. So this is what we're talking about, this heightened awareness of connecting to everything that is sentient, is what communicating with animals, with plants, with minerals. I've got a lovely video of a little boy where the meteorite in his hand talks to him in his mind and tells him where it was from, where it landed, and what it likes and what it doesn't like. So we've got this kind of expanded awareness that these children have, and this is why it's going to be very difficult for the schools we have now to understand, and no wonder, because they're not, you know, they can't be programmed in the way that many of us have been.
I'd also like to say that even though these new children have these gifts, skills, and abilities, we don't necessarily bring onto the planet things that haven't been seeded here before. And so with the Cathars in southern France, or actually through the European continent, but the Cathars spoke to and listened to a meteorite.
Ah,
Yeah, they
interesting.
did. They did.
Ah,
And
that's
in fact, you'll find that the meteorites will show up again and again when it comes to cosmic communication with the stone or with an actual meteorite, with our cosmic brotherhood.
That's very interesting, because I've already, you know, come to an understanding with crystals and the ability to particularly communicate with crystal skulls, for example. As one young lady told me that when she was in Atlantis, she had her own crystal skull, and that it was made for her, and that she was a researcher that downloaded all her research into her own crystal skull. And she even said it would be really nice to know if it's still around somewhere, and what have you. And I've had my own experiences with some crystal skulls as well. So I'm familiar with the ability to gain information from them. Let's put it like that.
I do think that the Atlantean timeline, if you could call it that, right? Timeline's a little fuzzy word, but the Atlantean timeline is now, and we're just a different octave of it. And so these technologies are coming back. I'm heading to Hot Springs, Arkansas. And if you have Atlantean recall, you might remember that some of the giant crystals that were mined for Atlantis came from Mount Ida or Hot Springs, Arkansas. So we're really looking at a sense of continuation, but more so as we grow emotionally, mentally stable in our spirituality, these technologies, these remembrance, and these connections come back. I think the children, being more innocent, have it more fluidly in their consciousness than adults.
I think that you're absolutely right. They're coming in awake. They don't need to have, you know, their DNA activated like the older models, as I call it, that are slowly being activated, etc. Because I know that the older models, like myself, have needed a little bit more help to wake up and realize more of who and what we are. But because they're coming in with the frequencies, that's part of the activation too. The children are bringing it in. One of the mothers was telling me her son, who was 9, that he would talk to her in light language. She would respond in light language, but she said the difference was he understood what he was saying. I didn't.
And we're just like, okay, that sounds good. Moving on. That's
Exactly.
you know, the children, I think, again, they're here to fulfill a role. We're seeing time and time again that these children are coming onto the planet. They're just opening up their throat chakra. They're providing these codes and wisdoms and knowledge onto mainstream TV. You know, they have operatic voices at ages 8, 9, 10. You know, we're just seeing that they're coming in, like you said, fully operational. That's the gift. That's showing us, as Earth is evolving, that Earth can sustain this level of vibration, and that their level of vibration is helping all of us to awaken because it's going into the grid system.
Well, this is what's so exciting, because a lot of people that are sensitive or have woken up start to see more and more what's wrong with the planet, what's going on with the planet, what's behind a lot of the lower frequencies and the what I call the unloving energies on this planet, and the control. As they do that, it can be very disheartening, particularly as they're becoming more sensitive and they're tuning into that. They can be very disheartened and say, you know, it's just so overwhelming. I mean, I was talking even to an 11-year-old young girl who was saying to me that, she says, you know, and she got very emotional. She said, what about the cabal? And she said, you know, I'm trying my best to talk to these reptilians to raise their frequency and what have you. All of 11 doing this. Mm-hmm. And becoming extremely emotional. And I said, well, you know, the fact is that we all are being part of this now. It's not just you. You're not alone. Everyone's coming in with different awareness and programs to assist on different levels. I said, and that is the hope, because I said it is absolutely certain to me, it's absolutely illogical for all these wonderful new souls to come to this planet at this time without knowing they can do something about it. Because I said they wouldn't bother if it wasn't possible, because that wouldn't make any sense. So, when you feel like it's overwhelming, just remember that it's always, the whole phrase, it's darkest before the dawn. Remember, things are changing. People are waking up. And this is happening across the globe. And the evidence of it is the children that are coming out and challenging the system. You said it yourself, we've got 15, 16-year-olds talking to politicians. We've got the frequencies coming in through their voice, through their artwork, through the scripts and the symbols, the crop circles, the frequencies from coming to the planet now. All of these are working in concert to assist us with this shift. So when people get disheartened, I say, just see what is happening rather than what you feel isn't happening.
I'd also like to say that for some of us, we came in with soul memory, and soul memory is knowing that there are planets that have gone through stages of consciousness, and that on some levels, and not to take away from your upbeat message and your love, because I'm right there with you 100%. I fully understand that the children come in with a mission, it's burning, and they're ready to get it done. So they see it hot, heavy, now. As that fuel burns inside them and motivates them to take action, to do their homework, to do the things that they're doing. We have, like you said, everybody on this planet at this time. So that's from the lowest octave, you could say, to the highest octave, to the person who's hell no, not going to go, to the person who's ready and rolling. And, if we come in and understand that duality has a place and purpose, and that that those two octaves are needed so that we don't sit back and do nothing.
Yes.
It's simple as that. So we don't sit back and do nothing. And even if someone says it's all for naught, I would like to say that it's growing your soul. You take that soul with you from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, and all that knowledge builds upon itself. It is never lost. Love is never lost, and knowledge is never lost. So I feel like if you can do it from a space of pure love, pure unconditionality, with as much detachment as you can, I think that you're going to find that it's not an adrenaline push. It is from the heart center, and your message and your work will have sustainability.
Absolutely. For me, what I'm seeing is that with many people really getting that and realizing that each one of us can carry that. And as we carry it, that it even energetically is actually is impacting those around us. And that's how it grows. So, that's what's, to me, is so wonderful about this process and being here at this time to experience this duality in the way that we're experiencing it, and not being afraid of it, not being scared of your journey, but actually embracing the fact that your soul has come with all the tools it needs to deal with whatever.
Absolutely. You came with the technology, you came with the assistance, unseen and then some, to assist you through it. And you came with like a universal backing. I've seen this happen throughout my life and also with clients, where if they needed something, the universe was dialing up everybody else to say, hey, get to this person. They need assistance, and it comes. It always comes. So having that trust. But again, this is a soul journey into awakening, and everybody has their stage. And it's all perfectly timed and well executed. If you could talk about a little bit more on New Human, what was it that you could single out and talk about, especially with people who are hardwired differently? What type of support system are they needing on this planet that we could provide?
It's a very good question. And when I started to write the book, that one of the first things, knowing and actually having an understanding of these new children was what can we do to facilitate what they've come here to do? What do they need? And it wasn't enough to just say, well, these are the issues. It's how can we fix those issues? And I've been very fortunate that I've had a number of contacts. One of them is Dr. Lena Olson, who is a molecular biologist, who is one of the letter people, as she calls them. She's had the labels. And because she's a scientist, she was already able to test the differences in her physical senses as being heightened, everything from touch to smell to hearing to sight. She was able to measure all of that, but also then understand what is needed to support it physically in certain things to do with certain vitamins. ADHD need more vitamin Bs. There are certain things they need because of their heightened frequency, for example. What kinds of foods are more beneficial for these children to stabilize them so they don't, the parent doesn't feel they've got to go the medical model, for example. And also with sustaining their physical higher frequency, she was looking, and it's something I've been looking at, is how do we give them the environment for them to be all they've come here to be? And it's almost like turning school on its head and saying, okay, the parent or the educator provides the environment of safety for these children to actually tell us what they need to be or they need to be. So they're teaching us what we need to provide so they can do what they've come here to do. So it's a complete reversal of roles, basically, where what we're doing is really about honoring their awareness and supporting that so that they can be healthy and they can operate in the way that is natural for them to operate. And really that to me is something that's going to be crucial, because so many of these children going to mainstream schools are bowing out. They don't want to go. Many of them will end up on drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, to shut themselves down because it's too painful, because they're not understood. They feel alienated. They see the programming and it makes no sense to them because they're being educated on board craft. They're being taught how to use their abilities. They're being given information, the true nature of reality, the true nature of our origins. They're being, one young girl was telling me how she'd been taken into a black hole and being shown what it was like in the black hole, where the planets were being exploded. And then she was shown a wormhole where she was seeing reality of the dinosaurs in real time. She was being shown genetic engineering, and she was told that they use many different species and many different forms for seeding other planets. This is their education, cosmic education, and they go into school and they learn about Bonaparte. It's like, you're what? What's the relevance to me with that when I'm exposed to this kind of cosmic education? It is completely bizarre, and this is what we're facing in terms of supporting them.
And I also think that if more parents could be open to some form of collective schools or gathering with other people that are in this, and really kind of going out on a limb to provide a new foundation for these children. I know when the Arcturian contacted me, I don't typically work with Arcturians, but they contacted me about future forward moments for schooling for children. That this was all about the children. This was all about providing them actually a framework, like a building or something like that, where they go in and the children decide what they're going to learn, not where we tell them what to learn. And so, yes, you're right on the money. I think that that's been something that a lot of the ET races, because, these are their children on some level, are here to help us awaken to that they cannot go into mainstream and cannot participate in mainstream to the level that we did.
Absolutely. And once it's interesting and heartening that parents contacting me are aware of this. There are educators that I know that also are aware of this because they're also aware of their own interactions. I've clinical psychologists that say, Mary, I'm aware of these children. How do I best support them in an environment that at the moment isn't conducive for me to even talk to their parents and help them understand what's going on with these children. So it's finding a bridge where we can connect with mainstream so that we can actually start getting that going. I don't know how that's going to happen yet, but it's something that is absolutely vital for these children.
We are seeing meditation starting to come forward in schools. So maybe, just little bit by little bit. But I also think that as we are in this breakdown to build up situation here on Earth, that it really is going to take more and more people thinking outside the box and providing things that they need, and then opening up that wisdom or knowledge or even space for other people.
Absolutely. And the thing is, for me, as yourself, is the more that you can put out there to normalize this, and this has really been the way that I've wanted to operate with the information, is giving you a new interpretation of what these labels are. And if you can look at that, I mean, there is Dr. Diane Powell that's realized she's working with autistic children and realizing that many of them are telepathic. And she's being able to show that this is a reality, that and even the understanding and awareness that this is possible from someone from more mainstream is getting the message out and normalizing what we already know is happening, and the parents know is happening. And the more awake educators and the more awake psychologists that are in this field, social workers, all those that nurses, many of them are awake and are becoming aware of this. So it starts a movement, and the movement expands.
I want to thank you for the dedication that you've provided to this movement, but also to spreading the word. It takes an enormous amount of energy to get out there and talk about it and provide, all this research and everything that you're doing, because each cornerstone, each touchstone that we have here on this planet is really, it's like a rippling effect to everybody else. It's like you said, it's normalizing, but not just normalizing, it's giving a home, a place, a website, a something that someone can reach out and say, I'm having these experiences, help me grow into the consciousness that I'm meant to have in this lifetime. Even if I don't know it, it's pointing you to it. So here's the skills, tips, abilities to move forward and to become awake, aware, and empowered with your own ability, your own life on this planet. Like if you were born here, there is room for you to be here. There's room for your evolution, and it's your right to have it. Absolutely your right to have it. So thank you for getting out there and traveling and writing the books and speaking on these books and having them translated into all these different languages, are pointing to the fact that there's a need and a desire to hear it.
I think you understand very well. We live in a Western society. I'm not talking about the indigenous, because they're already multidimensional and they have a problem with that. We have an inaccurate psychology in Western society that says unless you can touch it, feel it, see it, hear it, etc., it isn't real. When every one of us has awareness that is multidimensional. So we made this an aberration rather than a natural part of the human condition, and our multidimensional self is as important, and in some cases but far more important than our left brain logical side. But we've been educated out of accepting, loving, knowing and wanting that side of ourselves, so it is suppressed. And because it's suppressed, we wonder why we're depressed, because we're looking at reality
Good point.
through one eyeball and wondering why we can't make sense of the rest, because we're not accessing the information that is available through our multidimensional selves. So we have this community of depressed, anxious people because they're shut down from the very thing that nurtures them.
Yeah, the very flow, the very energy that supports them in their well-being. Absolutely. And again, that is a choice, because when you're depressed enough and you're contracted enough, there is an expansion eventually going to happen. It has to go the other direction. You will need to move through those stages in order to awaken. And again, I feel that this extraterrestrial contact, so whether or not you believe in extraterrestrial contact, I was awake, I was born remembering, I remembered my heritage, I remembered why I was here, the things that I was here to do. I did get a little beat up by the system. I have been working through that. It's always like you're peeling a layer, peeling a layer. It's there because we're in a system, but it's good, right? So it's like there's hope and evolution for all beings, whether they want to take the extraterrestrial route or believe in angels or have some form of just spiritual meditation, whatever it is that they're here to do, it's there for them. That seed can be awakened.
It's all about, as you know, Althea, it's all about intent. Is your intent to expand? And one of the things that always makes me smile, because I get a lot of very aware souls come to see me and what have you, and they're saying, I just want to know whether I'm doing my mission, whether I'm on track and what have you. And I chuckle with that. And I say to them, of course you're doing your mission. I said, your soul isn't going to let you miss the bus after it's got here and it's made, it's provided all of this up to now. Do you think it's going to let you miss it just when it's vital? Of course not. It won't. It isn't possible. I said, but it's asking you to trust, and it's asking you to know that your soul is going to guide you. So as long as you're listening and trusting, I said, you're going to be fine, and you'll be led into whatever it is that really you're meant to be involved with. But you're already doing it anyway.
If you got the passport to be on this earth, you are doing it. Your soul.
Exactly.
Have you, Mary, have you had any extraterrestrial contact?
Let's put it like this, not in the standard way. I've got no memories of being on board spacecraft, although I've been told they've seen me up there and I don't always look as I do now. But I do have my non-human team who I have a chat to, which actually has been very helpful in my work. So when I work with someone, I'm not just working on one level. I'm working with the team. And I'm usually working with whoever's the team on the other end as well with them. So a lot of my work is giving people tools to manage that in a way that gives them confidence and trust, because it was something that I was trained to do.
I just see your ET self all over you. I really do. I mean, and I can see how they can just keep you on point. Do the work, Mary. Do the work. Don't get lost in all this stuff. Do the work.
You have to more grounded. This is what I do say to people. You have to be more grounded, not less, the more you operate multidimensionally. And this is something that for many, it's just reminding them of what they already know and just giving them the tools to have confidence in it as often as not, as you well know.
So what our listeners don't know is Mary was up till midnight in a previous interview. And so I'm not going to keep her. I'm just going to ask her one last question. And do you think that we're going to have open contact in our lifetime?
I do, absolutely. And I am saying this from a very pure personal point of view, is that I've got a feeling that just before I chose to come and have this adventure, that when they said, look, Mary, if they'd said to me, look, Mary, you're going to work really hard on the planet, you're going to do a great job, but you're not going to be there for the finale, I would be saying, sorry, I want to be there for the finale. So I will come only if you can guarantee that. So as far as
my God, you were the first person that said that. I had a laundry list of things that I wanted attended to before I came down here on the planet. And part of it was having my memory intact, but also knowing what it is I was here to do so I didn't get lost in the milieu. That was really important to me before I came in. And the rest of it, I feel like humanity, you will succeed to the level in which your soul has set out for you.
Absolutely. I want to shake hands with the ancestors, and I am determined to, or the family as I call them, because for me, that is really now where I think we're ready to be. I think that everyone who has come to this planet right now has come because they know that this is, going to be a very interesting ride for us to actually join the galactic community.
Mm. So, if you would like to know more about Mary and her work, please visit www.alienlady.com and www.acern.com. That's ACERN.com. And I'd like to thank you, Mary, for being a part of InnerTV and for sharing your beautiful love that I see emanating from you, from really to all of us. Thank you so much.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And remember to subscribe, like, and share for more InnerTV interviews. Thank you so much, everybody. And until next time, bye-bye.